Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fate Apocrypha every week with Best Guy Ever, the best guy ever, also known as Nate.
What's up, everybody? I'm introducing myself. Here I am. I'm the best guy ever. I'm here. I'm queer, ready to talk about some Fate shit. The greatest anime ever made. You know, Fate Stay Night. The greatest series ever made. Which just I feel whenever you know that the brain expansion meme. It's just when I get to Fate, you're at the highest level. You know, that's just how it is.
So for the entirety of the previous anime season, the spring season, we did Arrow Manga Sensei every week.
Sure did.
The series where I picked a show that looked very innocuous but popular. I thought this will be the most middle-of-the-road show of the season, and we'll talk about it each week and see how much we can wring out of it. And we did it on the Digibro After Dark channel because I wasn't sure if we'd make it through the whole season. I was like, what if this blows up and it's not a good idea?
Fair guess.
But we made it through the whole thing with like 45 minutes of talking about every episode. Turned out Arrow Manga Sensei was a fucking tragedy of a show.
Yeah, yeah. It was a real gold mine of sin.
It was. You should go watch those videos if you haven't already, but we're on the main channel now with this new series, and we're going to be covering, once again, the second most popular show of the season, which is once again from Studio A1 Pictures, and is once again a cancer on the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's different, though, because, you know, this is an adaptation of a game, and I think the biggest...
No, this is a series of light novels, actually.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I miscalculated. I was giving it so much credit. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought that the reason it was so bad is that it seemed like... It does feel like a game adaptation.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Okay.
It's a series of light novels.
You say so.
I
Wow.
thought for sure... It feels like a card game adaptation.
Yeah,
you know?
it does. It really does. I'm really surprised by that. Fuck. I was like, oh, you know what? There's no need to be that concerned about all this. This is fine. Like, for a video game, whatever. I see them, like, setting up game mechanics. Like, obviously, this is weird for a show to have, but I get why it was there for the video game, and it just wasn't. Holy shit. Yeah. I'm doing a complete, like, I'm going back down from my brain expansion to the very lowest level now.
So we had to watch the first 3 episodes of this because I've been busy, didn't have internet connection, so we just binged this, and like, man, it was physically painful to watch this. Like, my brain felt like it was beating against the side of my skull, trying to escape from my head. Like, I felt things dying inside of me, and when you, I finished the third episode, about 15 minutes before you, and by the time you were done, I had completely forgotten that I just watched it.
I don't blame you.
I had no recollection. Thank God I have all these fucking notes.
Real quick, Digi, name one character. Name one
Frankenstein.
character. Okay, Frankenstein does stand out. I guess that's true. Well, but that's the thing about Fate in general. All you remember are how cool, like, the hero servant guys are, and what's their super special ability. That's the whole thing. That's the entirety of what Fate is.
I guess we should start here, as you always have to with something like this, by talking about what we know of Fate.
Right.
I know you've played through the original Fate Stay Night visual novel, all 3 routes.
I have 100% of that motherfucker. Well, I haven't gotten every single ending, but yeah, like 95% of it I've experienced.
And what do you think overall of Fate Stay Night, the game?
The game visual, I don't even think of it as a game. I just think of it as like a book. But it was kind of fun to read. It was kind of fun to read, to just come back to every once in a while and dig through. What I liked about it best, which does not carry over at all into any other medium that it's present in, is the incredibly graphic descriptions of agony that Shiro is going through, like, every single fight. And so it really kicks it up a notch. It describes, like, the sensation of his bones splintering as he, like, connects a punch against, like, the face of, you know, someone wearing fucking plate mail or something. Like, shit like that goes into detail, and that's fun. It is an incredibly, ridiculously overly verbose series, of course. Yeah. Everyone knows this. And, boy, did that carry over into this shit. But yeah, we'll go into that. It's full of all this filler shit that is like, if you get invested in the characters, then I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And, you know, I did get a little bit invested into it as I went on. I found myself kind of liking certain things about it, but
did you at all expect that it was going to turn into this monster that it's turned into now?
Well, I read it.
Franchise.
I got into Fate because all my friends in college were like obsessed with it, and I had no idea what all the fuss was about. So like eventually, like years after it was suggested to me, I was like, okay, you know what? Now I will sit down and I will fucking read Fate and see what the fuss was about. And like, I mean, to me, the premise is so attractive. You know, all this shit about, like, summoning 7 heroes with, like, there's classes and there's rules to learn. But the thing that infuriates me is how easy Fate throws out all its rules, like, instantly at the least probable, or at any fucking time, And my favorite instance of this is, like, the first fight that happens in the original light novel, not light, fucking visual novel, thank you, where it is immediately set up. All right, the first fight is between Archer and Lancer, and it is immediately set up that Lancer has a noble phantasm, Gungnir or something. I think it's Gungnir. That its ability is that it 100% of the time pierces the heart of its opponent when activated. Upon activating Gungnir, immediately it fails to do so due to the magical defense of Archer. So it's like immediately they have thrown out the rules that they're setting up, and at that point you know that there's no point in taking any of this shit seriously anymore. And you know, if you care about like the rules of the fight, which I do.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just a big silly bunch of bullshit, you know, just enjoying seeing characters portrayed like girl. 100% of Fate's appeal is Girl Frankenstein. Girl Frankenstein is Fate's Stay Night. She is the Fate series.
Well, I do think that the most important thing about the Fate series is the character designs.
Of course.
Like, I think that what it really comes down to, like, I mean, yes, the story is interesting, and there's lots of things about the series that can make it enduring. The whole concept is it just lends itself well to iterations, which is why there's been 1,000 iterations. But, like, the reason that it sells is that Saber is a phenomenal character design who everyone loves, and Tosaka Rin is super fucking hot. And, like, I think everything else kind of, like, that is the through line, because those characters are in everything. You know, like, no matter, if Fate was just the concept, you would never need to return all the old characters. But, like, most iterations of Fate return them, and when they don't, we go off the rails. And that's only started to happen in more recent iterations of Fate, where we've started to have it balloon into this, I don't know, it feels like it's trying to become Gundam or something. Like, there's gotta be a Fate show on the air every fucking season now. And it's a fucking nightmare. It has gone way off the deep end. And first of all, I mean, before we even talk about this show, like before we talk about like the content of the show, how did they fuck up the character designs? Like, the character designs in this show are garbage.
You know, I've been familiar with these for a while, because, you know, upon reading Fate for the first time, I went and I just looked at all, like, the Elseworld stories, which is what this is, and all the, just, like, all the supplemental materials, and looked at them, and some of them are good, like the Saber of this one, Saber Lily or something, that's, like, you know, OG Saber's daughter or something. Mordred, that's right. I like her. Damn, she's such a fucking thought, dude. She's wearing the shortest shorts I've ever seen.
She's just Saber, though. Like,
well, yeah,
she's the best design in the show, and she's just basically Saber, but she's not as good as Saber.
Like, look at Siegfried.
This design would never have been iconic.
Siegfried is a fucking mess. He looks like a nightmare.
Siegfried is awful.
Yeah.
Siegfried is awful. All the male characters are just a fucking train wreck in this show.
Like, look at I think he's like the main character guy with like the scar. He's the necromancer guy. Like, what is this man? I don't know. It baffles me. He
reminds me of Dog the Bounty Hunter for some some reason.
Yeah, pretty close. It's, you know what's weird though? Like in the original Fate, you know what I'm trying to get is like the atmosphere is so much more lighthearted here. Like everything was so fucking mind-blisteringly serious in the original. Everything was like a matter of life or death outside the fucking like cooking and school scenes. But even then, over everything was like a shadow of like at any moment a fucking servant will appear and shit will get kicked up to 11 instantly. And like the main character guy, I think he's the main character guy. He's just so in control and like laughing about everything, and he's so capable.
This show just has no thought put into it. Like, I don't think it's that this show is going for a lighthearted tone. It just isn't going for anything.
Well, see,
it doesn't understand basic film. Because that's the thing. Like, going through the Fate franchise, so I never played the original game. I played, like, read like 30 minutes of it, and I got fucking bored.
Don't blame me.
I watched about 6 or 7 episodes of the original anime that nobody likes, and I appreciated things about it, but like once it got into like the Fate stuff, where it's like explaining all these mechanics, that's where I got bored.
Yeah.
And then I really liked Fate Zero, because Fate Zero is incredibly fucking dark and serious, and the point of Fate Zero, it kind of pushes all the like gamey shit to the back burner a little bit and focuses more on like the characters and what they're about, and the characters in Fate Zero are fantastic. The story is
if you say
here
so.
and there, but I
can
think,
disagree.
well, okay, maybe not Kiritsugu, but like
for sure.
he's probably the worst character in Fate Zero.
He's the most like fucking Sasuke motherfucker I've ever seen in my entire life.
But like Waver and Ryder are fantastic.
Yeah, everyone likes them. They're all right.
Caster and what's his name, the fucking serial killer guy,
Bluebeard
cool.
and red
like,
hair. Yeah.
There's a bunch of really cool characters and just interesting ideas, interesting stuff to chew on, and it's very serious and has all these memorable moments. And my brother Victor always says that he feels like Fate Zero is the closest that anime has come to like feeling like an HBO show. You know, it's got that brand of like self-seriousness and gravitas to its presentation.
Yeah, well, I can't argue with that, I guess.
And when you look at Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the anime show, like, they clearly tried to continue that feeling of gravitas. Everything's supposed to be like, this is fucking Fate. You know, Fate is something special. It's something like, oh, we're gonna take care of it. Granted, the show's boring as sin, but like, it's very beautiful to look at, and it takes itself very seriously. Then you've got the offshoots, like Prisma Ilia, that go for like, this is funny. This is not serious. This is the opposite. We're trying to be lighthearted. We're trying to be fun. Carnival Phantasm. But this show is not going for anything. Because, like, it is dark as shit, but it doesn't feel dark at all.
I really wanted to bring that up.
Characters are getting brutally murdered constantly in this show.
They
and
sure
none
do.
of it has an effect.
Remember little Lolly Jack the Ripper? First thing we see, she's like devoured a person or something. Yeah, I mean...
Oh, is she Jack the Ripper?
Yeah, she's Jack the Ripper. And then like... Remember, this is a person who murdered prostitutes. Okay, this is one of the things I hate about Fate. How, like, you know, like, there's that one dude who's the archer who was apparently, like, a centaur. Like, he drops a line about, like, you know, I chose not to appear as a centaur so as to hide my identity. Like, so basically they're saying that these guys can look like whatever the fuck we want, and there's no rules, and we can do whatever the fuck we want. Jack the Ripper can be a little girl. You know, it doesn't matter.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I was under the impression in the original Fate Stay Night that Saber didn't just happen to be a girl. The idea was that King Arthur had secretly been a girl, right?
Oh, of course. That was the foundation of the entire character, absolutely.
Yeah. But in this series,
was cool.
It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Because Frankenstein's monster is one of our characters and is a woman for no reason.
I'm not gonna lie, that's my favorite character. That's by far my favorite character.
So fucking retarded.
She's so cute. She's always like, I'm literally retarded. I don't know how to human. I like her. She's like, what? Yeah, go on.
Well, like in the original Fate series, each character, at least this is how I understood it, all of them were either real historical figures or like legends that were like not quite true but have been like accepted as canon over the centuries, kind of thing.
Yes,
like,
right.
Like stuff that you would almost like folk heroes, basically.
Right.
Frankenstein is not a fucking folk hero. Frankenstein is just a book. It's just a popular book. Like, there's never been, okay, someone like Robin Hood, like, the idea behind Robin Hood is that he really existed. He didn't, but the idea is that he did. There's never been, like, a mythos that Frankenstein was a real person, you know? Frankenstein's just a fucking character in a book.
You know,
and from the 1800s. Like, why is Frankenstein a fucking summon in this?
It's just become a part of culture. I guess is that in the rules? Like, I need the fucking rules. I need to read the goddamn rule book for how this fucking war works, because I don't know.
Are all, like, is any public domain character just now in there? Is this now just a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen now?
I guess
like,
so. I think so. Like, maybe it's just if it's just that, like, if you believe in a character enough, like, if everyone's just like, yes, we know this guy. Like, I think Santa Claus is in one.
No one.
Well, he was a saint. He was a saint, though. So
again, but the idea of Santa Claus is that he's real,
right?
Like, we know he's not, but that's the idea. Frankenstein's never had that. Bigfoot would be better than fucking Frankenstein.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but when they were discussing Frankenstein's origin, it sounded like the guy was talking as if she was real within the context of this story. That
is possible.
Maybe that's what it is.
What it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Because this is in an alternate universe.
Right.
An alt-universe version of Fate where the original story never happened. Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero never happened because something went differently. Incidentally, though, what's weird about that, in this universe, seemingly, King Arthur was a man, because Mordred says that she is the only true descendant of King Arthur, and refers to her father as someone she's trying to, like, live up to.
Correct.
So, apparently Original Saber is a man in this universe.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've never understood what the fuck's going on with any of that. Because as I believe that Saber does have, like, a queen. This is referenced. She talks about his queen in the original. And, you know, because like, there's the story of Lancelot fucking, you know, cheats on, he cucks King Arthur with his wife, Guinevere, or whatever the fuck her name is. So, like, did she, what, she's a woman. She is a woman. I don't understand the mechanics here, all right? I don't, maybe she's adopted. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Maybe they used Lancelot's sperm. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Trying to wrap your head around this shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. This show, I will give it one thing. It lives up to the title perfectly. This show is Apocrypha. Because, like, religious Apocrypha is basically all of the extra retarded non-canon bullshit that people tie into the Bible, right?
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, that's what Apocrypha is. Like, religious Apocrypha is like when people go on about, like, all the different dukes of hell and all their names and, like, what they all do in their domains and shit. That's all religious Apocrypha.
Okay.
So this show is definitely focused on the Apocrypha of Fate. It's just, like, every random detail about the Fate universe is crammed into this show.
You know what's interesting, though? It's at the expense of every single character. Every single one doesn't matter and isn't important. The most they matter is in their character designs. That's it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Even the guy who I'm like, I think he's the main character. I don't know. Yeah. It's just his design is so not normal main character, and his attitude isn't like an up-and-comer, or like, and the show is not interested in exploring anyone's backstory at all. They don't give a fuck, which is why I thought it was a video game where you're just like given a character and you're like, go fight now. But no, really astounding. Yeah, and I think this is a great case of a term that you and I are both fans of that was made up by film crit Hulk. I think I know it.
Tangible details being misunderstood, because this show, it has all of the tangible details of Fate. It's got the system by which everything works. It's got the sabers and the lancers and the archers and all that. And it's got, like, the stuff that happens in Fate. Like, people die violently, you know?
Yep.
Fate's always been an extremely violent franchise, but it's such a misunderstanding of the violence in Fate. Because, like, in the games, there's violent moments, but they're, like, insane. They're, like, legitimately shocking.
Yeah.
When, like, Ilya gets her fucking heart torn out, it's like, oh,
that was a big deal.
Yeah. Or in Fate Zero, it's like, there's lots of stuff that's just fucking unnerving. Like, in the first episode, when the girl's in the fucking bug pit. Just just like a little girl getting violated by hundreds of bugs.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it fucking gets into your skull.
That haunts A to this very day. You know, that image is just ingrained in our psyche to be terrified of and disgusted by, despite her being best girl.
Yeah, and so Fate historically, yes, it's a horror series, but it's horror. It's not just violent. It's horror. This show just has people get, like, comically destroyed on, like, a second-to-second basis with no fanfare. Like, it's as though they said, okay, we're gonna do the thing that anime does where you fight 100 guys, but because this is Fate and Fate is gory, all of them are gonna, like, explode in fountains of blood for no fucking reason, you know? And it's just numbing.
Remember when they walked into that forest and there was like 100 guys all impaled on trees that were still alive and twitching? I remember that. I didn't forget that when the next scene was like a cute caster girl like prancing around telling everyone's name. I didn't forget that just happened, show. Why did you? I don't, they really don't get it.
It's just, it's lots of edge.
Yeah.
Lots of edge intercut with scenes of endless exposition. And I gotta go through. I have a ton of notes, so I'm gonna start going through in order. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to prelude with, but
I think I'm ready for it. I've got some notes, but I'll bring them up when appropriate.
So the first episode opens with the first of many awful fight scenes where you can't tell what the fuck is happening. And it's just like a ton of movement. There's like 1,000 guys. There's like 1,000,000 identical good guys, or maybe they're the bad guys, fighting monsters that all look the same. Everything's CG. Everything's blowing up and fucking flashes of light. We reach peak saber in this episode because there's like 2 or 3 sabers running around, which, as I understand it, that's what eventually happened to the Fate franchise. It's just that there's like 30 sabers now or something.
Yep.
So yeah, there's just a long, retarded fight, and every fight in this show is god-awful. None of them are comprehensible at all. Even when the animation's okay, it honestly just makes me really sad that they used animation on these really bad fights. Like, did you ever understand what was happening during a fight in this show?
Did I understand what was happening? No. I did think some of them, like, looked kind of cool. I will give them that. I do, even when I'm not able to follow. I mean, the real problem was I have no stakes because I don't care about any of these people. I don't know who they are. So at that point, I can kind of resign myself and be like, well, things are happening. I feel my heart moving a little bit. I'm not dead yet. So that's something.
I didn't feel any movement in my body. Like, because I'd see like a flashy animation cut, but then it would have like no segue into the next one. Like every image is just disconnected. It's like
you were quick to bring up this as being worse than the Asterisk War. And is that true of the fights? Is that what you're getting at with that?
I think this show might be worse than the Asterisk War, and I say that because I mean it's every bit as much of a flatline. But here's to repurpose a great what's his name, Black. The comedian whose last name is Black.
Louis Black, yeah.
To repurpose a great Louis Black quote, the Asterisk War was a show of no ideas, and Fate Apocrypha is a show of bad ideas.
Ah, okay.
So, Ass War had no pulse, nothing going on, it was just static, but you could immediately understand it. Like, you just looking at it, you knew what was happening. This show, I can stare at for 22 minutes and have no idea what just happened. And, like, and even when I do understand, like, when I say I don't know what happened, I don't mean, like, I don't comprehend what's on screen. I mean, I can't, like, put it together why why this would be created, you know? Like, everything is so meaningless and does nothing to me that I have to wonder, like, how does this get produced? Like, how does this happen? How does this script get read by somebody and that person goes, okay, I get it, and then they make it, you know?
That's a fair question, and I have no doubt that the answer is simply, branding and marketing and a need to put out a Fate product and not a terrible concern about the level of shame that will be induced when it reaches the public.
I feel like this is the kind of show that people will look at it and they'll think, well, I don't get it, but surely there's some kind of big Fate fan out there who understands this. Like,
God, I hope
surely
not.
if you know enough Fate Apocrypha, surely this makes sense. But I'm looking at it, and there's no way that's the case. There's no way anyone is on a deep enough Fate consciousness that they understand this show
This is
completely.
when a show like this is where you would like a guy like Bill Burr to come watch the show and tell you what he thinks about it, because he would just be like, I don't know what the fuck any of these characters are doing, and you're all a bunch of cunts, and this is bullshit, and I'm not watching it anymore. He recently did a review of One Punch Man on his podcast where he talked about his insight was very interesting, and it takes you have to be confident when you recognize vapidness to say this is vapid. There is nothing of value here. I cast it aside. I'm moving on with my life, and this show desperately calls for that kind of axe grinding.
Yeah, this show. So after the big opening fight scene, the entirety of episode 1 is exposition.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And the whole way through, all I could think about was the first episode of Fate Zero, which I love. I love the first episode of Fate Zero. It's 45 minutes long, and yes, a lot of it is exposition, but it's also all really interesting. Like, it introduces you to a ton of characters and what their motivations are, like what they're going to be doing in the plot. In fact, it does such a good job introducing the characters that then they feel static for the next 4 or 5 episodes because it's like, oh, we already got the point and we don't need it reiterated. It's got like this big epic build-up over the course of the episode to the moment when they finally summon their familiars, or whatever they're called, their servants.
Yeah.
And like when that happens, it's fucking like legit. It gives me like chills the first time I saw it, you know? And there's, again, creepy moments and different tension and dispersal, and everybody makes fun of the scene with the 2 guys walking in circles doing exposition.
I know I do.
That scene is 3 minutes long. 3 minutes.
That's a long time to walk in a fucking circle,
It's
dude.
a long time. It's a long time. 3 minutes in a 45-minute episode. And people act like that's the whole episode, though. Like, people act like, oh, all they did was walk around in circles. Motherfucker, watch Fate Apocrypha, where they literally sit in a fucking office and talk for fucking 15 minutes.
Whereas in Fate Zero, they like go through, you know, motivations of characters and ritualistic descriptions of like the reasons for what they're doing and how they're going to summon them, and then it builds up to a moment. In comparison, Apocrypha is like reading a grocery list of like things that we need to pick up on our way to get to the plot today. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, and I had this moment of realization as well that when the characters just matter-of-factly explain the Holy Grail War, it sounds fucking stupid.
Of course it does. Of course they're explaining it like a marketing guy is explaining to the president of a company so that he'll like buy the product and pick up the IP. Like, that's what they're doing.
Like when you watch, like in the original Fate Stay Night, you really gain that information slowly over the course of this like mystery.
Yeah, and that's the point.
Yeah, it hooks you in with the character, like with Shiro having no fucking idea what's going on and being this weird autistic retard who gets wrapped up in this bizarre death game, and like by the time they finally start explaining it, you're already kind of invested. Or in Fate Zero, you know, they dump a lot of it on you at the beginning, but it's got such a gravity to it where it's like these weird characters in these shadowy places, and like everyone's trying to hide something from everybody else. They're all like, oh, don't go around telling people your real name. And in this show, they literally sit in an office and the guy's like, so you know about the Holy Grail War? And he's like, yeah, everybody does. And he's like, oh,
but that's what's funny, because in the real world, yes, we all know there are no mysteries to be explored. Everyone knows everything about the fucking Holy Grail War. The series is a giant, and that's why the original light novel worked, fucking visual novel worked really well in the same way that like the Hunger Games worked really well, because that was like a first-person story about like the very personal experience one character was going through, and you know that was no great work of literature. Neither is Fate. Surprise, surprise. But it was really, really good at being like a page turner, because you get invested in this character and their struggles, and the fact that they know fuck all about this whole thing, and there's all these mysteries, and you want to find out about all these characters, and you know the whole concept is fresh at that time. Now that we know everything, all they have left to do is bring in new servants. And theoretically, and what people like you, I'm sure, liked about Fate Zero was that they bring in characters, they give them good motivations. Even I'll admit, some of the characters in Zero were good. And, you know, we always say the Council of Kings is like the coolest scene ever. It was fucking great. Yeah. And but that's them talking about motivations, talking about characters, developing themselves, explaining what's going on, with them personally, because humans like human stories. We don't so much like fucking rule sets explained to us for long periods of time, and that's why I don't think they'll ever be able to even close to capture, in a format like this. Even an anime in general, I don't think could do as good a job as the written word from Shiro's first-person perspective, his, viewing of the First War, the Fourth Holy Grail War, or whatever, and these are all for naught. Are all for naught.
So I have written down goofy motherfuckers everywhere, because everyone's wearing these fucking dumb-looking outfits in this show, man. Like, because it's weird. We've gotten to that point. It's like late-game World of Warcraft armor, right? Where like you've got so much random bullshit tacked onto you because all of it. Oh, this does like a super magic fireball, and it's like, yeah, but you look like a fucking idiot wearing like 20 capes and shit. Like the dude in episode 3 in particular, who like shows up to fight them in the Lancer, who's got
the big sun guy.
Wings?
I don't know what's going on with that dude, but he's got something. He's glowing or something. Yeah, he's a fucking nightmare on the eyes. I mean, Siegfried, we already mentioned. Siegfried's a monstrosity.
Yeah, Siegfried's really bad. I wrote down, why does Siegfried glow? Because
dragon blood.
Oh, does he have dragon blood? Is that
he was covered in dragon blood and made him immortal or something, so I think that's like the canon explanation. He still looks terrible. So, he didn't have to glow in the script. They could have made him not glow. But incidentally, my favorite scene, I think in all 3 episodes so far, was when they show like that same Siegfried motherfucker like back in the day, like in the Netherlands, like surrounded
still
by peasants
glowing.
wearing brown and still wearing this fucking glowing skin, fucking white and blue glistening armor. Motherfucker, like, just look at yourself. This is not good. This is not working for me.
Yeah. So the start of episode 2 is the first. There was a slow encroachment of like actual scenes into this show, because so much of this show is just exposition dumps that all kind of bleed into one another, and there's no real sense of like starting a scene and ending a scene. Like it'll just cut to characters talking, and it'll cut from there to other characters talking with no sense of flow, and that's why it becomes so mind-numbing, because you can't even really tell when something's happening. The only times that it feels like a real scene are like the opening scenes of the first of episodes 2 and 3, and then maybe a couple scenes later, like the Frankenstein scene in episode 3 is like a scene. But so the opening scene of episode 2 is just they're taking Joan of Arc to the gallows. Joan of Arc, who for some reason has become extremely popular in anime, and the focus of this scene. They're taking this girl to the gallows. The focus of the scene is her tits.
Yes, that's exactly correct. That was one of my main bullet points I wanted to bring up. They are bringing a witch to be burned at the gallows, all right? And they do so, and the focus is on her tits. And I just wanted to say, we were going to watch Kakegurui, and we decided not to because it was fucking bullshit. But what I liked about that show was how it was just not... It wasn't being coy. It just shoved fan service in your face. That's what it was about. Like, this show is doing that, not even Aramaka, but it's doing that sneaky shit. It's trying to, like, get it past you, like, this clear, like, clearly, focused tit shots with, like, the tapered clothing to show the curvature all the way around.
Why would her clothes look like that? They're taking a witch to burn at the stake, and she's wearing fucking rags, and her rags conform perfectly to the shape of her tits, like they were tailored.
That's the thing.
You know? And the camera hovers on them first, before even showing her face, it's on her fucking tits.
They think they can get away with that, because, like, okay, you know what? Like, the screenwriter thinks he's so clever. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? Oh, I'm so smart. I'm going to write, focus on her, just below her head, you know? Just below her head, to that general area. They'll never guess what's just below her head. Oh, my God. I fucking cracked the code. Oh, man.
Yeah. God, yeah. So, there's... It's weird even that they would do that, though, because the fan service in this show is so, like, thin and random. Like, there's not a lot of it. The whole first episode had, like, no fan service scenes. And then they chose the witch burning scene to shove in a tit shot. And then, like, every once in a while, a character will be kind of naked. And that's about it. It's odd. And they never, like, even when it's, like, the character just kind of naked. There's only 2 scenes that are like outright, this is for fan service, which is the weird lesbian licking scenes that we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, the show more relies on just like cute designs in general to get that across. Except for Mordred, who's just going to show her shit off all the time that she's on screen.
So
which I'm
my
into.
next note is that Mordred, while she is the most attractive character in the show, in fact, I would say the only attractive character in the show, she's fucking intolerable. I can't take her personality.
I don't know. I think she's kind of okay. I'm kind of waiting to see what they do with her to see if she turns out intolerable or not, because she's super cocky and super like on her own dick about how badass she is.
She's
but she
cocky,
is though.
but
she is though.
She just fucking whines though. She whines
That's
about
true.
shit.
That's
like
true.
he first summons her and she's all like edgy and shit about how don't call me that name and blah blah and like you might be my master but I'm gonna be a fucking lone wolf. And I was just like, oh, shut up, dude. Jesus Christ. And incidentally, she is the worst Miyuki Sawashiro role I've heard in a very long time. Miyuki Sawashiro being one of my favorite voice actresses. She sounds terrible in this show. I don't think she's a good casting choice for this character.
She is not playing to her strengths with this like lower voice going on here. That's weird.
Sawashiro's known for a lower voice, but like this one's bad.
I'm thinking of the other one. I don't know. I thought she was okay. I wasn't really paying attention to it. TBH.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect you necessarily to. But not only is she in this show not good, but also Maya Sakamoto's in this show as fucking the woman getting burned as Joan of Arc. She's also not good. And these are 2 of my favorite voice actresses who have very similar voices, and so they kind of get occasionally cast against each other. Like in the show Kanan, then Sawashiro plays the main character and Sakamoto plays the main villain, like the rival. And they've been cast that way a few times. This case is just they're both there and they both suck and their characters suck and the script gives them nothing to do. Maya Sakamoto is just deadpan because her Joan of Arc has no personality in this show and is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
I hate it. What does this say? I can't even. Oh, the OP just ends.
Oh yeah,
also.
the abruptness of the ending of the OP I really took notice of. Very strange, very terrible audio mixing, guys. Get your shit
Reminds
together.
you of something though, right? The last A1 Pictures show we covered every week.
That's
where
true.
The last episode just suddenly fucking jarringly ended.
Yeah, getting some flashbacks now that you mention it.
I wrote, what even are these designs?
I
wrote down stuff about the designs like 8 times.
Can I just bring up one example? What keeps Jean's head thing in place? I've been wondering that the whole time. Is there a ribbon situation? Is there some sort of ear appendage thing extending out under her hair? I don't know, but it does make sense to me. All right,
why
that's
is
all
there
I've got
a
to say about
centaur?
Because centaurs are totally real, dude. You know that. I don't know. He's a myth. I mean, there was a Medusa in the original Fate, so they're not outside of the original Rider is Medusa, so they're not they put in mythical stuff.
But
sometimes.
she didn't look like a Medusa.
Well, I can't remember if the character was actually okay. Because here's the thing about Fate. I don't know if so in truth was the Medusa of history like an actual snake-haired witch woman, or was she just like a woman with a magical power? Because magic is fucking real in Fate, which blurs the lines. Or was she just a woman with like long hair and the power to look at you and turn you into stone? I don't know which of those is true. So but this guy was clear. Like, yes, I am a centaur. I've chosen human form. So, but magic is real. So like all bets are off. Anything is possible. I don't know. Frankenstein's real too, I guess.
Well, to get into a few more of the you already noted the little girl cannibal, which I guess was Jack the Ripper.
That was Jack the Ripper, yep.
It was just edgy stuff going on, and then there's the weird lesbian licking scenes.
I've told 2 of them so far. Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
2 different scenes where one of the masters just has chained up her servant and is just licking her belly, I guess. I guess Fate has always had sexual content.
True.
So, and lesbians are edgy, I guess.
I guess.
Why is this here? It was so weird. Because, I don't know. there's no implication of like why she's doing it. I guess she just wants to lick her. Like that's all it is.
Wants to. Right.
She's like, hey, my servant's hot. I'm gonna fucking rape her. I guess. Which makes sense as a thing that would happen, I guess. But the servant doesn't give a shit. She's just like, whatever, lick me. I don't fucking care. She treats it like it's nothing. Whereas the girl who's licking her is acting like she's doing this fucking, like she's doing some really dirty shit. She's literally just licking her. They're both like mostly clothed. They're in like underwear.
Right. I don't think, just to dig down into this a little bit, I don't think that like the dominatrix fantasy, or not fantasy, but she's clearly like a dominatrix type. I don't think they get off on like just licking someone who doesn't give a shit, who's just like, what, I'm not interested. Do what you gotta do, dude. Don't care.
What I got from this is that they were trying to put in like, oh, we're gonna have like a sex scene, and it's gonna be like lesbian sex, because that's fucking, that's cool. And then, but they don't it's not lesbian sex, she's just licking her.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like they had to dumb it down to like PG-13. They couldn't go like R with it in actual sex or something. I don't know.
So here's probably the worst fan service moment in the episode, and I mean this fan service in terms of like this being Fate Apocrypha. You know, this show is all Fate bullshit. It's like, let's see how much Fate crap we can cram in there, and for the most part, it's not so bad about cramming in like old characters. Like, we've got Saber's daughter, but we haven't seen Saber yet. We haven't seen like all the old guys. But then a character shows up who is Shiro Kotomine.
Yeah.
Did you catch this guy?
I caught him. He's Shiro, two of my favorite characters.
Kotomine. And he's literally like a fusion of Shiro and Kotomine Kire. Why and how did this happen?
Because they're the two most popular non-Saber characters, I guess. That has to be it, right? They just felt like it. It's an Elseworld story. They can do literally whatever the fuck they want. So
And not just is it Shiro, it's like Archer Shiro combined, because he's got the silver hair, the spiky silver hair of Archer, and like the darker skin. He's got the face and voice of Shiro, and the outfit and job of Kotomine Kire, and he's named Shiro Kotomine. And when I read that, I fucking wanted to die. Yeah, Xemnas, he does kind of
he looks just like Xemnas. Showed as Xemnas. I mean, I just thought that was funny. I don't know what to fucking think of this guy. He's like the biggest badass, clearly, like just like Kotomine. Like this guy he's playing everybody for a fool. He's pulling the strings.
But he's got the voice of Shiro, and he's like all soft and fucking. Oh man.
Yes, truly a brilliant juxtaposition of the former character. We've really done it this time. I don't know.
Oh boy.
I don't know what to think.
I've written down, who the fuck even are these people? And then in caps, everyone sucks. I don't know what scene. This could have been any scene.
I know one scene that fits that description. Remember when just like all at once, like, and this ties to like the thing that you liked about Zero that this doesn't do, like just all at once, all the like the Romanian dudes, like the soldier guys in the army, whatever, like just all at once, 4 of them just summoned 4 servants. I mean, this is in episode 1, but just like bam, just matter of fact, we did it. Got our servants. Done. Moving on. What are your names? Okay, let's hurry up. Let's move this thing along. We don't have time to waste on characters.
Before that, the way they introduce who all the masters are is a guy just fucking lists them.
Yeah.
Like, in the opening exposition scene, the guy says, all right, he's like, oh, who are the masters in the Holy Grail War? And he goes, this guy, this guy, this guy. Like, wasn't finding out the identities of people, like, half the fucking battle in Fate?
Absolutely. That's exactly what was fun about it. But, they don't give a shit. And, like, what are you thinking about right now? I'll tell you, the only thing I'm thinking about, because the only thing that keeps the story interesting is, like, the characters that we haven't met yet. I just want, who are all our players. I want to know all our players. You gotta dole them out like one at a time, which is why this bloated fucking cast of 14 servants, 14 fucking masters. You got Joan of Arc and like the clone dude who I think is gonna hook up with her or something. This class is way too fucking big. I don't know. It's really baffling. They just way overdid it with this shit.
So towards the end of episode 2 and throughout episode 3, we finally get some attempts at characterization. We've got this whole Frankenstein scene, which is basically just the guy like recaps what Frankenstein's deal is, and like I guess she wants to have a fellow Frankenstein monster. That's her thing. And this guy clearly has a crush on her. I don't know. Frankenstein.
Who wouldn't? She's like a cutie.
She's a weird moe blob. Like, because her personality is she's a fucking rampaging berserk monster, but also she's got a soft heart and she's cute and she wears a dress.
I'm into it, dude.
You know. Yeah, well, if she was in a show that didn't make me want to die, then maybe she'd be all right.
Yeah.
But there's another characterization scene that is particularly atrocious in my opinion, which is where we've got this girl in a wheelchair talking to this other, I don't even know which one, I don't know if one of them was a master and one was a fucking servant. I don't even know who they are. I literally don't know who these people are.
I know, but this is more fun. Go on.
They're fucking sitting there, and the girl's talking about what she would wish for if she wins the Holy Grail War. I think they're both masters because they're both talking about their wishes.
No. That's her servant. That's the centaur guy, the archer, and she's the master. Yeah.
So she explains that what she wants with her wish is to make her legs work again because she's in a wheelchair, and if they tried to fix her legs, it would break her magical circuits. Right. So she wants to be able to have legs and also be a mage. And all I could think was, would you really participate in the Holy Grail War for that? Like, this is the most dangerous, like, life or death. Like, everyone in this, one person survives the Holy Grail War. You are probably gonna die.
That's not actually true. You can survive. You know, if your servant gets blowed the fuck out, then you're out. But you can live. You know, a bunch of people lived in the old story. I guess so. But I hear what you're saying. This is life or death shit, and they really are just jumping in. I would say, like, the only thing that makes sense to me is that, like, man, they really must, like, think this is all fun and games, and they're super confident they're gonna win, and like there's
just no sense of stakes in this fucking show.
Exactly.
Like no one seems like they've got a big enough ambition, you know?
Dude, the thing that tipped me off to that, this was outrageous when I got this was in episode 1 when main character Sunglasses McCool guy, when he just walks into that office and the guys there's like, hey, so we found like the Holy Grail. That's happening again. You know, like this giant, like cataclysmic thing that defined the world. The guy's like, okay, sure, whatever. We found it. It's happening now. You're a master now. You're doing it. And here we go. Here's go summon King Arthur or whatever. The dude doesn't bat an eye. He doesn't ask any questions. He just accepts it and moves on. Which is why I thought this was a fucking video game, because that's what you do in a video game. This is not a character responding to new information. It's just like mashing X to advance text. That's what this is. It was fucking
I'm just thinking about how, like, in Fate Zero, the main thing about Kotomina Kide that made him, like, so, like, fucking creepy and weird was the fact that he was participating in the Holy Grail War even though he didn't give a fuck about it because he was just so fucked. Like, he was so, like, weird and emotionally fucked up since his wife had died that he was just going to throw his life away and do whatever the church told him to, you know? And, like, that was an interesting character. This is just like, whoever feels like it, jump on in. Like, it's a game of Yahtzee, you know? Like,
of course.
You're at home breaking out the board game. Hey, who wants to play Holy Grail War? Oh, I'm in, you know?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It sucks.
There's a scene, there was a moment in episode 3 where I clicked away to go look at something and legit completely forgot I'd been watching the show. I clicked away for like less than a minute and I completely forgot I was watching this.
That's how you know you're watching a show that just has completely failed to engage you in the characters on any level. It's just, it's a failure. There
are shows that I will, you know, if I'm watching it, I'm into it. I pause the show if I have to do anything else. If I'm not paying my undivided attention, I pause so I can pay attention. Then there's shows that I'm not really into, and I dick around a little bit on the side and come back. I've never, like, clicked away and immediately forgot I even was watching the show, like, or what was happening in it. Like, I didn't even remember who the characters were when I clicked back. But there's exactly one moment in all 3 of these episodes, one line of dialogue that I thought was okay. And it felt like the one spark of life in the entire show, which is when the Mordred and the main guy are about to fight a bunch of bad dudes. And the main dude just, like, breaks out a gun, and she's like, whoa, you're gonna fight? Like, most people use their servant to do that. Like, wow. And he's like, yeah, of course. And then they go in and they fight together. The fight was terrible, but I just thought that idea was cool, that like this guy is as strong as a servant and will fight with them, you know, and like that there's sort of a like she gains a respect for him because of that, and like that's kind of their bond. Okay, scene. That was the only moment where the characters like had a spark of life. Everything else was terrible. One of the worst shows I've ever seen in my life.
I liked that guy fought with silly little necromancy weapons. That was cute.
I didn't notice because I couldn't tell what was happening in the fucking fight.
Yeah,
scene.
he fought with the like bones and hearts and body. Oh, actually, when he fires his gun, it is like the first digit on fingers like are the bullets, little finger digits.
That's cool.
That was kind of cool. Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, all right. So,
can I can say something about that scene that is relevant. So that fight was in episode 2. Okay, so what's interesting about that scene was that during the fight, you know, so that fight takes place in like some little nondescript village where there's nobody around, and then all of a sudden, okay, the characters state quite clearly, "Oh no, homunculi and golems are attacking," which is code for these are not real humans. Don't get too invested. Like no one's actually dying. No need to worry about it. So that's what they're saying. Okay, but still, these guys are fighting around houses, presumably with humans inside them. Okay, so I was just thinking like, okay, well this is weird, but all right. And so they fight, and you know, Saber beats up a golem or whatever, and the guy is fighting these other things. And what was interesting to me was that one of the weapons he throws is like a grenade, and it's a grenade. Human heart. That's what it was. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, ooh, he's a necromancer guy. Cool. So he throws it, whatever. The point is he throws it, and it explodes, and it literally melts like a gas cloud. It's a big gas cloud comes from that thing, melts the homunculi that it touches. It's a nightmare. Okay. Here's what I'm getting at. He threw that giant gas melty grenade, like, in this town, and was obviously not concerned about, like, casualties of any kind. It was the middle of a town, and he's throwing around these weapons, okay? So based on that, I thought, wow, that's very strange. This must be an abandoned town of some kind. Okay, this must not be anything to worry about. The thing is, though, in episode 3, when he's talking to Saber, they have a conversation explicitly about, hey, when we were in that town before, oh man, there were like people around. That was like a populated town. We got to be careful to avoid, doing that again.
Even right at the end of the scene, he says like, "Oh, we've left a scene here. We should this is a problem."
Like, when I saw that scene the first time, I was like, whoa, people are gonna fucking die because you're fighting here. You are obviously killing people right now because it was a big area of effect bomb that literally melted people. And then, like, I thought they just must not care, but they do care. And it was just very annoying to me, the fact that I was right. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because at the end of that scene, I hadn't thought about it at all. I just thought, oh, they're fighting, whatever. And then at the end of the scene when he's like, oh, we've left quite a scene here, that was when I suddenly went, oh yeah, they're not supposed to fight like in like this is supposed to be discreet.
There's people around, yeah.
The Holy Grail Wars in the shadows. Just the show does so little to like, I don't know, introduce any element of anything. Like I guess it's taken for granted that you just understand the rules of the Fate Stay Night story, but then it breaks so many of those rules, and it's so much of its own alt universe thing that we kind of need you to reestablish what are the rules, you know? Because we see him fighting in town, we're going to go, well, I guess you're allowed to fight in town. And then he goes, oh, we can't fight in town. Oh, well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Confusing.
The operative word is doesn't give a fuck. That's how the show feels.
Yeah. It's just such a mess. It really
it's worse than I
like
estimated. It really they do not give a fuck about any of these characters. They just are not interested in going into any of them or like developing any stakes. The one character that they're like kind of building up, I feel, is that one homunculus guy who escaped, and he's like, what am I gonna do? I've
the most
3 years to live.
character of them all.
Yeah. Maybe he'll be cool. I don't know. I'm not interested. I don't care about any of these fucking characters except Frankenstein. She's cute. I want to see her do things.
The funny thing to me, or rather, what the show reminds me of is, it reminds me of a sort of genre of show that I have always had very little patience for, which is the shows that are like just really confusing and have a ton of shit in them. And there's shows like Book of Bantora is a good example, or what's Horizon on the Middle of Nowhere. These are shows where it's like you really have to consume like a large amount of information before any of it starts making sense, because there's just so many moving parts, so many characters, so many factions, so many different attack types, and they all have different meanings and like can only be used a certain way at a certain time. A certain magical index almost becomes like this as it goes along, but like it builds to it, so you can kind of
that's fine.
You never get lost, you know? Like these kinds of shows, they just drop you into a bunch of shit. But the thing about it, with like Book of Bantora or Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere, I've always considered it my problem that I didn't get those shows, because they clearly have an internal logic. Like, I can tell the characters are doing something, I'm just not sure what they're doing. I can tell that the author has thought about what all the stuff in this world means, he's just not explaining it in a way that I can understand. This show, I have my doubts that any of it means anything. Like, when I see these scenes, I don't have the sense of like, oh, I'm not getting it. I have a sense of like, they don't get it. There is no logic. There is no moment where this all clicks. It's just a bunch of bullshit.
Let me put it like this, okay? So everyone understands basically how Fate works originally. It's a free-for-all. 7 people just fight. It's a, you know, kill whoever you got to kill, do whatever you got to do to be the last man standing, and you win, and you get your wish. You get your wishes granted. Okay, this show has taken a step to add a layer of complexity and develop this system of teams. So now there's double the players on the field, and they're divided into teams. So, like, if you wanted to take this approach seriously, you could, like, what I'm thinking as I'm watching this, wishing they would go into more, and, like, they hinted it a little bit, but is like, because once the initial battle wins, and like either one side wins or the other wins, and there's only black or red players left, like at that point, those people then need to kill each other. So they've added this potentially really interesting like dual layer of like, okay, I want to win, but I need to make sure that when my team wins, as few of my allies are alive as possible. So it inherently builds in. Exactly. It inherently builds in a drama into it that I just think the show is not going to address at all and doesn't give a fuck about, even though it's even more interesting than the original premise. So that's very frustrating for me, and like they just don't care. And the fact that they complicate things so much more extensively by adding this like extra system instead of just playing it safe and sticking with like the 7 servant system or whatever, like it's just all these stupid things that they try to gush all the stupid exposition about all the time that they really don't need to. It's actually incredibly simple, and they could explain it in like 5 sentences. And you know, it took me less time to explain it just now than they did during the show. Just incredibly boring.
So this show right now, it's the second most popular show this season on Mal. It's got a 7.8 rating, which is not bad at all. Last season with Eromanga Sensei, we were constantly decrying the popularity of the show, the fact that it was loved by lots of people.
Yep.
And like, but we understood why people liked it. We didn't agree with why they liked it, but we understood that it's a show with girls saying lewd things, and people, I guess, are into that.
Right.
With this show, do you think there is anything other than the fact that it is called Fate that is causing this?
But that's really everything. That is that's all you need. You just need some new servants, and you're done. Not even the servants. I think just the word Fate. Yeah. Because the servants are terrible. Maybe I could see people being into Mordred and Frankenstein. Maybe. But that's not enough to give a show a 7.8, you know? Like, even of course. I agree.
You know, so I'm wondering, like, is it only scored that way because we're not that far into the season, and maybe people had already given it a high score before it even started, based on it being Fate? You know, people add it to their list and just mark it a 10 because it's Fate, and they love everything Fate. Like,
of course.
I don't know. And I have to mention...
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, this is the second A1 Pictures Fate thing. Last year they made an OV, or like a movie called Fate Grand Order, which was also one of the worst things I've ever seen. So like, with Fate Grand Order, I had meant to make a thing about it where I was going to talk about how this is the moment where Fate has officially jumped the shark and can never come down again. Like, no matter how... there's all these different iterations of Fate, and everyone has the ones they like, the ones they don't like. But like, I can respect most of Fate. Like, you know, I might not enjoy, for instance, Unlimited Blade Works, the TV show, but I respect it. It's a show. It's a show that was made, like, they put effort into it. It looks nice. There's a lot of people who really enjoy it, and I get why. Grand Order and Apocrypha are just nothing. There's been no effort has been put into this. This is a train wreck, you know? And it really stinks to me of, like, this is where we've gotten cynical, where we've officially said, okay, all we need to do is put Fate on something and it's going to sell. We don't need to put effort into it, you know? I'm looking at my Anime Expo lanyard, and it's got a bunch of Fate shit all over it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which was for the card game, I think. There was like a whole bus with an advertisement just for the Fate card game. You know, we're at a point where put Fate on something, it'll sell. And they've taken the most cynical approach to that possible and made something bad, and it's gonna sell.
That's the downside of capitalism, baby. You get shit like this. They'll just put it out because it's got brand recognition, and it'll do pretty well.
So I think this show airs on Saturday morning, so we might be doing a follow-up episode to this pretty soon. Because we try to get these out like the day the show airs. We just had to be late for this one.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I've got to say about these 3 episodes.
I think I have blown my load pretty sufficiently.
Yeah. All right. Tune in on Saturday night probably, and we might maybe have episode 4 talk about. Good.
See you then, folks.